Welcome everyone to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals. And part of what we do, along with special guests, are these office hour sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat and we might not have all the answers, but multiple heads thinking about a problem should help. We've had a bunch of questions submitted already, as you can see. But if there's anybody here live on the call that would like to ask any questions, feel free to flag yourself in the chat functionality, which will be monitored. Also, I think one of the best things about office hours is not just the four of us speaking, but also all the other amazing SEOs sharing their perspectives and stuff in the chat. So please feel free to do that. And Joe will be monitoring and summarizing as we go. Like every week, with me today is Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. Good morning. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Thank you very much for having me on, your co-host. So this is our 50th episode today. And yay, Preeti's like, yay. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. We have Preeti, Frank, Deepak, Jonathan. We have Neil. We also have Boran, Benjamin, Walid, Idris, Daniel, Miss Larney, Matt, Simon, you've been coming for a long time. Thank you, Jemiah, Tossin. And hello, everyone watching us, not live, watching the recording video. As like every week, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. And those that are watching the recording, you can always join us live by going to goodsignals.com/SEO Office Hours. We have a lot of people joining us today, and it's been great. And we'll be continuing this show for the new year as well. So, like Mike said, my name is Juliana Turnbull. So I'm dialing in from Barcelona, Spain, where I run a remote digital marketing consultancy business. And today I am pleased to have on the show today, Yordan and Carmen. Welcome to SEO Office Hours.
Thank you so much. And I'm feeling really blessed to be part of this today on a great Friday morning. And congratulations for the 50th episode. This is great. Big achievement.
Yeah, to second Carmen, congratulations on the 50 episodes. I've been joining for a few weeks and I absolutely love it. So thank you for being part of my Friday routine.
Thank you. Thank you for joining and thank you for being one of our regular audience members. We appreciate that. And I met Yordan, Mike and I met Yordan in Brighton SEO, and I saw Carmen just last week at International Search Summit. So it's great to also meet them in real life. So I'll just do a little bit of introduction to our special guests. So we have Carmen. Carmen is the director of organic growth at WellTech. It's a global IT company. They specialize in health and fitness mobile apps that helps obviously millions of people stay active and healthy. Very important. She's also been doing a lot of fundraising for Surrey Stands with Ukraine. It's a charity that raises money and helps Ukraine. So I wanted to just share that in the chat. I think, Carmen, you shared that earlier. So let me just see if it's there. It's Surrey Stands with Ukraine. It's in the chat there. So if everyone takes a look at that, thank you. And Carmen has been working in digital marketing since 2015, coming up to 10 years now. She's gained experience both at agencies and also working in-house. In her free time, she is dedicated to mentoring other women. She helps them grow in SEO, and she is a mentor in the most recent cohort of the SCDC. She's a Spanish expat living in Leeds. She loves rock concerts and other films. And she also loves a good espresso. So I do hope you've got your coffee ready. Unlike Mike. Sorry, Mike.
No, I have put it now. I'm okay.
You do? Okay,
I
great.
did the unprofessional thing and stood up and got it.
Okay, I feel so much better for you now. So Carmen's Spanish in Leeds, and I'm I guess a British in Spain. So
we swap, actually.
And Yordan has been a regular member of our SEO Office Hours, and he's an SEO account manager with extensive experience in the marketing industry also since 2015. He actually moved to Bulgaria around the same time that I did, at age 14. But he didn't know much English or have any family and friends here. So he's learned English and SEO since moving there. And also he's been to Brighton SEO quite a few times, I think 7 you said. And also attended conferences like SurfConf and London SEO XL. His aim is to speak at some SEO conferences. And today is his first public speaking opportunity at SEO Office Hours. So thank you very much for joining us today, Yordan.
Thank you so much for having me for this amazing opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for all your support you've done as well. And actually, you're based in Brighton and you support a Brighton-based SEO charity called Switchboard. I'll also share that in the chat as well. I'll share that in a second. So thank you very much, both of you, for joining us and for your extensive bios, and you do so much in your free time as well. I'll pass back to Mike.
Great, super. Okay, let's just jump straight in. So question number one, a B2B client offers employee wellbeing services to help their business clients support their workforce. One of their services is a GP helpline, where employees can call 24/7, 365 days to speak with a doctor, request a prescription, etc. They were ranking quite highly for GP helpline and receiving legitimate business inquiries. However, Google now only shows NHS/free type queries and strips out any commercial pages. Scrolling through to page 4 of the SERPs, Google then shows, in order to show you the most relevant results, we've omitted some entries. And so basically, when you click on that and you get to see the ones that have been excluded, you then see the commercial terms. It's understandable that Google are helping the majority of the population with NHS-type results for GP helpline, but is there any way around this? Or is it just bite the bullet situation, regroup and optimize for more specific purchase queries? Okay, hopefully you followed along with that. If not, Joe will put it in the chat.
I'm just writing in the chat. I tried to separate it out, actually. There's a lot in there, so...
Great. Carmen, you put your hand up.
Yes.
Go for it.
I didn't even give Yordan any time to put his hand up. It's actually a very difficult question and understandable, something that people will worry about. But I also think that Google is doing the right thing, right? If what's they were ranking for was NHS services overall or GP services overall, that is not really the intent that people normally use to search for such a broad term. And it also makes sense that Google is showing the biggest authority in the SERPs. So I would think that if they were ranking for that before, it was because they were lucky. And I also think Google is actually showing better results now for the user. That doesn't mean that there's nothing that they can do. I would say just make sure that they create enough content to cater for the right intent behind that page, because if the intent is for companies to have that service, then try to target companies searching for that service, understand how that potential user or potential buyer is searching for it, and try to do brand awareness, actually, because I think that is what is going to make the difference. It's going to be really difficult to compete against NHS. It's really respected in institution, and it's going to always be showing up. So I said a lot of things. What I would recommend is, first, make sure that you understand your audience. Who is the people that will be buying that? And that is companies, not users. So therefore, you need to cater for a very specific SERP. Secondly, invest a lot in brand awareness towards the right user. So if this is for a company, do it in LinkedIn, for example. It might be that your users are more there than actually in Google. Try to find where they are. And third, do this, obviously, brand awareness in the right places where they are. So it might be that you need to look into other platforms or other ways, like newsletters, to push your service rather than focusing only on Google. And if you focus on Google, potentially another keywords are not so general, more specific, you will also get a higher conversion rates in that case, rather than trying to get the traffic for something that is not what users are searching for. Hope I did justice to the question.
Great, amazing. Jordan, do you have anything to add?
I perfectly agree with what Carmen said. Then it's about targeting the right intent, because when you're looking at GP services helpline, you're after a broad audience of people. So not everyone would have access to a helpline which is dedicated and paid for by their employer. So it's too broad, and SERP is actually doing the right thing by servicing less of that and focusing on gov.uk or NHS results, which are reputable and have been verified by professionals.
Great. Joe, anything to add?
Yeah, I would actually just say that I agree totally what Carmen and Yordan said. And I think, as Carmen said, they were quite lucky to be ranking for that. I believe that in the UK, you're very lucky to also have this state-paid healthcare system. So they should really be ranking the NHS for that. I would say if they want to obviously be more present, I would actually look, as Carmen said, into LinkedIn, But also perhaps we've seen a big increase of people also B2B clients and B2C building up their profile on Instagram. I'd see what is the difference between your company and obviously NHS, because the NHS is free and we don't know about this one if it's offering wellbeing services, employee wellbeing services. We don't know if there's a premium for that for some of the companies or for some of the employees that are using that. That's still a tax liability, so it's not technically free. So I would look at the Instagram. And we just have a couple of comments as well in here. Simon, YMYL, yes, that is a tough gig. Your money, your life. How is the long tail working? I would actually look at your Google Search Console. He did mention that, but he's talking about how is the long tail working. So a good place to start actually would be Google Search Console. You could also look at some of the other third-party tools. Simon says, I'd be looking for other marketing opportunities outside of organic search because your market isn't the employees, but the employer. Yeah, good point there. So potentially, maybe it could be Instagram or, as Carmen said, LinkedIn. Monty said, there's always a way around this, but brands need to understand whether they're actually providing more useful and relevant information, more relevant than other brands.
Oh, sorry. No, go on. Yep. I was going to build on that. Maybe before they were bringing quite a lot of traffic because they were ranking for such a broad term, but eventually as a business, what they need to care about is those conversions. And if the people that were coming to the page were people looking for overall GP services, but not for employers trying to hire that for the employees, the conversion rate probably hasn't changed that much. It's only that the traffic has changed. So eventually, if they have the right strategy, maybe they get less traffic, but higher conversion rates. So maybe that's what they need to focus rather than focusing on keyword rankings.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually, as well, to see how the conversion rate is doing. Idris just had a question. Is position 2 to 3 taken by NHS as well? Have they compared page to see what the differences are? Yeah, so some good comments there. I'll back to you, Mike. Do you have any other just points on this one?
Yeah, I was just going to highlight what Yordan was saying, actually, just around who the customer is. And actually, if somebody's searching GP helpline, they probably want to speak directly to a GP on a helpline, whereas it sounds like their customers are businesses who set up these kind of perks for staff where their staff can access a GP. So it sounds like what they need is keywords that they need to target keywords that are less in an emergency type keywords and ones that are more commercial and would satisfy their customers. So that was one thing I was going to add. And I think it's not just them, by the sounds of it from the question, that aren't included in the initial search results, is also their competitors as well. So it seems like it's not a problem. It's not something that they've done wrong. It just sounds like
exactly has configured how to eliminate these potentially irrelevant search results.
Yeah, so I agree with Monse about it makes total sense the NHS would rank for those particular terms. And as the questioner says, if it was me, I'd probably relook at my organic strategy and think, what is it? What are our actual customers searching for? And build pages and content around that, as opposed to trying to get in front of maybe the one or two that might be looking for GP helpline, but is actually looking for perks for their customers. Anything else, Joe, in terms of the questions?
Just Neil mentioned to you, Carmen, good call on that conversion rate. Idris is just mentioning that they should update GP helpline to GP services helpline. I think actually having this GP helpline, I don't know, I think that's a bit confusing because when I think about a GP, it's more like I'm going to the NHS. I'd probably be like, this is completely different. Yeah, I would actually look at their Google Search Console and see what people are looking for and look at if we can see some types of conversions as well.
Well, GP for employees, services for employees, I think is a bit longer, like keyword, like query, and it actually targets the intent because it's from B2B perspective.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting question there. So thanks whoever it was to submitting that. I think we can go to our next one, actually.
I'm just going to add, actually, putting my sort of PR hat on for a second. If it is employee perks, I'd be tempted to go and have a look for all of those websites that talk about different employee perks that you can bring in and try and get featured alongside some of those other perks that people get, like gym memberships and all of that. Just putting that other hat on for a second.
And then this is the last comment on this question, but it was a very interesting one. I think, again, putting the PR hat on, actually they should be showing up in business publications or business magazines, because it's probably the users that they're going to be bringing through referrals, they're going to be more cater to conversions that actually just that ranking number one. So we were talking at the beginning about focusing on brand. I think that's where they should be focusing on brand to try to show the service. But then we can move to the next one.
No, you're totally fine to carry on. Yeah. Okay, next question. In a nutshell, being a social media manager, what are the benefits of SEO to me? What SEO tools are beneficial to social media?
I'm happy to jump into that one as well.
Carmen, go.
Sorry, York. I mean, it's a very good question. We are in SEO office hours, so I would have expected to see what is social media good for me as an SEO. Instead, it's very good that the question is the other way around. What is SEO good for social media? Social media plays a very big role nowadays in anything organic, right? Because we know lots of users are moving towards searching in TikTok or searching in Instagram, depending on the topic that they search for. So basically, any sort of social media platform is practically becoming like a search engine. They are not search engine. I know there are a lot of debates about this. They are not, but in many cases, they act like they are one. So that means that when you are a social media manager, you need to start putting a hat of the SEO hat on whenever you're coming up with new topics to jump into trends, etc. So if you put your SEO hat on, what things that you can do as a social media manager is looking into keyword research, right? And when it's keyword research, doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, I'm going to put on my keywords and my search volumes, but let's look at hashtags. Let's look at the ones that are becoming more popular. Let's look at the videos that are becoming more popular. Use keyword research tools from the social media platforms to look at how people engage with content. At the end of the day, what we are doing in SEOs, we are trying to understand our users and offer them the content that they're searching for. So you are doing exactly the same thing in social media. You are trying to get them to engage with your content, to show up. So your brand in the end is the one ranking higher in this platform, like the same you will do for Google. So there's so much cross. The way the digital marketing is evolving and moving, SEO and social media manager are actually getting closer and closer together into the type of role that they are. Obviously, you are more creative in social media, that you will be an SEO role. The SEO role might be a little bit more technical, but the objective is the same. So you need to follow the same processes. And I would say the same for SEOs. I always encourage my SEOs to spend time in social media, to be honest, because they understand what the users are searching for. So I think, yeah, that will be my answer.
Amazing. Yordan, would you like to add anything?
So just to piggyback off some of the points, I think that it's about focusing on that user-generated content and what people are actually after in terms of how do they communicate with your brand to help tailor like that strategy, both in terms of SEO and social media. There are crossovers. You could use tools like Google Trends, which I think is now updating up to every half hour as well, to actually see what people were talking about in different parts of the country, what the search volumes are, etc., and then monitor any like trends so that you could piggyback off them as a social media manager. And I think when it comes to optimizing, let's say, your accounts on social media, it's good to make sure that you do something called citations of NAP, where you could cross-references your website from different platforms. I think Instagram gives you up to 5 links. One of them, make sure that it's actually your website, not just like a short URL, because you want to pass as much domain authority as possible.
Amazing. Joe, do you have anything to add?
Actually, I think it's really nice, or I don't like using the word nice, but I think it's great actually that the social media person wants to know more about SEO, because sometimes it's the other way around where the SEO is pushing it out. So thank you for wanting to be so open about it. There are a lot of third-party tools that show how other competitors are performing, but I would also re-emphasize what Carmen said. So see what's trending on different social media platforms that also can integrate back into SEO. I wanted to just share some of the comments that we've had, because we've had quite a few so far. So Monsi's talked about integration. So users tend to use different points to contact any brand these days. So it's really important to bear these different channels in mind. And also with regards to the channels, it's quite good to use different messaging across the different channels, not always the exact same messaging. Simon said, it's a fantastic excuse to pretend to be doing all the work and just SEO should post all day. What a job. Oh, Simon, you always so many jokes. Yeah, and Kiros is talking about that he thinks that social media enables us to get a better understanding of our target audience, allows us to create user-generated content that aligns with their specific needs and challenges. Yeah, I think with social media, you can also easily see the interaction and much easier than I think was sometimes with SEO. Neil's talking about, I would be thinking about goals and what you want the social context to be doing with relation to your website. What's the crossover? Where the user's spending their time? What insights does GA4 offer? Have a look at that in your GA4 dashboard. Yeah, so there's lots of different comments here for this question. Mike, do you have anything else to add?
Yes.
Sorry.
Go for it, Carmen.
I was going to mention that particularly I spoke about this topic quite a lot in Barcelona last week during my talk. If you use SimilarWeb, there's an option where you can see where your users spend more time on whenever you put your website, and you can also look at that for the competitors. And you will see that most of the time social media will pop up in there as places where they spend time on. And you can use that to actually create your narrative, right? You create one piece of content that goes on your blog, that then you put in TikTok, that then you put in Instagram, because you know that your users are there. Having said that, also TikTok has a keyword research tool internally, and there's Glimpse, this tool that shows you how trends go at the same time in different platforms. For example, I was doing this analysis the other day on yoga for beginners, because one of my apps are yoga, and I could see that yoga for beginners is searched more in Instagram than it is in TikTok, and it also is very popular on the web and in YouTube. So it also tells you that specific keyword, how popular it is in each platform. So I would suggest to use this type of tools as well to try to understand how you can use one piece of content in social media in more than one social media. Obviously, as Joe said, always catering to the specific platform, but you can repurpose the content to go to your web, to your TikTok, and to your Instagram towards the same purpose. So just to mention some tools, because I remember the question was also about tools.
And I want to add one last thing from me, is that just focus on the user, don't focus on the search engines, because by being user-centric and focusing on what your users need, you would have a longevity. We've found that when people are trying to manipulate the system, they end up potentially getting manual penalties, and you don't want that as well. So across both social and SEO, focus on your users and on your audience.
Amazing. Great. I think like one thing in terms of how can SEO help with social media, what are the benefits? I think what everybody said about tools, I think we've got access to these incredible tools, including Google search itself as well. I spend a lot of time just looking at the search results. And there are so many great nuggets of information, such as the people also ask parts and discussions and image choices and all of that stuff that appear in the search results can really inform and help with what the type of stuff you put out on social. I think the tools that we use are really good for identifying interesting topics that you could share on social, and also the best content or the best answers for those topics. I actually had a client the other day who has brought in a social media agency that they want to work with. We do SEO for them. And I literally had a conversation with them about how we can help. And one of the things was actually just the content that we've done over the years for the client. I know very well because we did the content, and stuff that will come up again and again. I was able to provide them basically with tons and tons of content that they can use, because we spent ages building these blog posts and guides and so on. And obviously it's slightly different how they're repurposing it and using that content. But yeah, if you have an SEO team or you have somebody doing SEO in the company that you're working with or for, hopefully that SEO team should be able to provide you with some great content so you're not starting from scratch. I find that's often the thing when it comes sometimes with companies I work with. Social and SEO are like so different and don't talk to each other. And I know we've talked about this time and time again at conferences. But yeah, I find that they can really help. So any kind of digital PR campaigns that I'm running, that particular agency is actually going out into the streets of London and getting Vox Pop type things where they're sharing stats with people on the streets and filming their reactions and finding out what's interesting. They're doing that from a social media perspective, but it's going to make my content so much better because it brings it to life. But to be able to do that in the first place, they needed the stats. I think yeah, just I think there are loads of ways that you can work together. And also, one last thing on it is it really helps with digital PR and link building, actually. So if something is popular on social, a piece of content that you've just launched, actually it's a lot easier to get a journalist to take that story seriously if it's had lots of shares and so on. You can also really help us. Carmen, sorry, you're very politely having your finger in the air.
Also, normally I'm not very polite. I'm always jumping because it's a thing that Spanish people we do. But I'm trying to mind my audience. No, what I was going to say, because it's very classic that, and this answer is going to be the other way around. Rather, what social media can do for you SEOs. There are also SEOs that don't necessarily like working with social media, but let me remind SEOs that actually you are interested in getting clicks to your content. Sometimes Google might take longer to index your contents, or we know that Google uses clicks as a potential helpful ranking factor. So having your content in social media is good for SEOs if you actually want to rank. Just so we don't forget that working together, it benefits everyone, and is more than proof that the more clicks that you get from your social media, the more chances to rank for the specific keyword. So synergy works both ways, and let's not try to bash social media just because it's shiny. It's also important for you as an SEO.
And also social media is like a really good opportunity to test different titles, right, of any guides or posts or anything that you're doing. So say, for instance, you share the same tweet or whatever. I'm not sure what you call it on Blue Sky. I'm not sure what post is called on there. Maybe it's blog post. But when you share a post, if you've got 3 of the same, say, blog posts, and one of them gets way more retweets or whatever you want to call it, then that's a good sign in terms of titles and stuff like that. So it can be useful from just helping you with creating your content. Great. Anything? Oh, we've got some Blue Sky suggestions. Joe, do you want to run through them?
Yeah, Skeets, you mentioned Preeti, or Blue Messages Monty, or New Tweets, or Blue Tweets. But the guy that set this up, he was one of the founders of Blue Sky, is the one from Twitter. So I think we could call it tweets.
Yeah. I'm not sure what you call them on X now. Are they just called tweets as well, or posts? Anyway, this SEO Office Hours. Let's get back
it's sad
to
what happened to
good
Twitter.
Stuff.
Yeah, we've got only 2 questions done and we're half an hour in. So also for those that are watching our recording, if you would like to join us on the show live, we are on at 9:30 a.m. GMT. Please sign up to SEO Office Hours on the Good Signals website. But if you're watching, I'm sure you love the site, you're loving the show, so click a like and subscribe to the YouTube show.
Great. Okay. Next question. And again, a slightly off topic. How can we use email marketing to help SEO traffic? Our database is massive.
Interesting.
They go first. Oh my God, I feel like someone.
Go for it, Carmen. Yeah, no, it's great.
Look, she's so raging to go for it.
Yeah, someone said I'm very excited. It's true. Too much coffee. I actually now having a tea, so I come up with the energy. This one is super cool. One of the things that obviously originally when I started in SEO, I moved from content, digital PR, SEO, and one of the most exciting things of my role right now is I look at it from an organic perspective, right? And that means every single channel. And that means also more opportunity to collaboration. 2 weeks ago, I did a test, so 2-3 weeks ago, I did a test about sending our blog posts, the ones that we were creating in our newsletters, because the theory for me was obviously I'm creating lots of content. Google is struggling to index my content at bulk because I have a lot of content out of the blue. So if I start putting this content in newsletters and I start getting the clicks, the rankings are going to increase. And in fact, it happens. Only that there was a mistake. This is just for you to learn. We actually have newsletters into 5 different countries, and the newsletter manager puts just one link to all the countries, and that was the English link to Italy, Spain, France. What it meant is that this English link started ranking in all the countries over the translated URLs. So this shows you that actually clicks in newsletters have a stronger signal than hreflang, for example, because hreflang was in all these pages. And because it was a mistake, all the English pages ranked over all of them. This to show you only that by having clicks in this newsletter, it definitely sends a signal, and you can get your content ranked, and you can get your content indexed by just getting these clicks. So my suggestion is make sure that you put the right link because it works, but definitely get your newsletter to get those clicks to your pages, to increase the indexing, to increase the crawl for your content, and to increase the rankings, because it does work. And the same way that you do it for social media, you can do it for your newsletters. Now, newsletters, it's proof that if you send one every single day, it leads to fatigue. So I would recommend to send two, roughly a week, depending on what type of page you have, but always with the right anchor text in your link, and always linking to your blog or the content that you're trying, or even category pages, the content that you're trying to push. But use it. It's a very smart way to get the clicks from your users.
Carmen, can I just ask a follow-up question with that test? Was it an email client like ConvertKit where it actually publishes a page online, so it like an actual web page, or was it just purely an email that wasn't a web page that gets crawled?
So we had the blog in the blog post, and then we were using that blog post to send it in the newsletter.
Right, I
and
see.
we were sending, obviously, we had this blog post in 5 different languages with subfolders, and we were trying to send that in each newsletter to each country. And we knew the people that do engage with our newsletter, so that's why we were trying to push this. We did both blog and category, and it worked for both. So for category and for blog, we started seeing an increase in rankings and obviously impressions and clicks. Now, the issue for me, which is an unwanted experiment, is that it proved that Google places way more weight in clicks of what it says, because otherwise, how come that all my English page URLs that were implemented started taking over all the hreflang content just because we were getting the clicks from the newsletters? We could monitor the clicks in the Spanish one going to the English, so people were actually clicking, and because they were clicking, that's why that page started ranking in Spain rather than the Spanish page, which for me was mind-blowing. In particular, if anyone in the audience is a technical SEO, this is to let clicks take over technical SEO. Always, not always, but that was my learning that I took from these unwanted experiments. But yeah, our impressions skyrocketed, and our clicks and our rankings skyrocketed after putting everything in the newsletter.
Great, Yordan, go for it. I'm such a polite guest this week. Just put your hand up. Wow. Go for it, Yordan.
I just wanted to talk about someone that I really admire, which is like a lovely lady called Aleida Solis, which everyone I know is aware of. Aleida launched the SEO FOMO, and I believe this started off as a newsletter, and now she's diversified it massively into a forum, into like submission of news articles, into job posting. So it's about creating that audience. At the moment, the key kind of way to succeed is, in my opinion, is to make that brand kind of building and to have that user-generated content so that you could set the right signals and make sure that when people are searching for you, they're looking for that particular brand. So SEO FOMO jobs, SEO FOMO forum, etc. And you're building that authority, trust. You're focusing on EEAT as well, and you're sending a lot of positive signals, and that allows you to really diversify. I know she has even launched like a WhatsApp channel. So exploring as much as you can, because you need to diversify in this market to be able to really succeed and like get the fruit of your like labor, so to speak. And that's where I think email marketing could really be like the start of something bigger. And you could also do a lot of like A/B testing. That you could do so much tracking when it comes to like newsletter and see what people are actually engaging with in terms of the links they click, and it's direct to consumer, so to speak. So I feel like there is a lot of potential there, and I agree with Carmen's points. It was so great to learn about the case study that they've had and like the learnings that they have. So I think there's some crossovers there between that strategy and what Aleida's done.
And also, I think some in the chat said email marketing is the secret sauce for success. I totally agree. Like, for one of the websites I look after in my free time when I do consultancy is an e-commerce, and newsletters is actually the channel where we do more conversions. Obviously, what we do is through SEO, through PPC, we trigger the users to come to our websites, but then it's through email marketing that we nurture them towards conversion. So do not forget, that's the way that actually you can connect with your user. Same with social media, but through email marketing in a more intimate way. So it's a good way to actually get conversions.
We've got loads of good points here. I wanted to add also about email marketing that you can have a sort of, well, Carmen, you mentioned nurturing. You can have the sort of automation for email marketing. So within, for example, HubSpot, you can do that. So you can have a sequence of the emails that you send. Other times you can just do straight out sending individual emails about your products or about what's happening. Maybe you're doing events. But what I really like about email marketing is that you can easily see the conversions, and it's great for testing. We may have mentioned this testing as well. You can actually see what the conversion is like. You can see the click-throughs. You can see who opened the emails as well. So it gives you a lot more information than SEO. And so you can take some of these insights and perhaps amend maybe some landing pages SEO-wise based on how your customers are interacting with those pages. HubSpot's a great one. Obviously, ConvertKit, you just mentioned that as well, Mike. And yeah, back to what you said, Yordan, latestly, she's grown the newsletter phenomenally. I think 4 years ago, I had maybe had 2,000 subscribers, and now it has over 30, maybe over 34,000. And it should be a key part of anyone's marketing campaign. We shouldn't always be focusing on just the organic traffic. We should see how it interacts, of course, with social. I mentioned that email marketing, and look and to do, if we can afford it, an integrated search strategy with paid search as well. And I just wanted to mention a couple of comments as well in the chat, actually. So Preeti said that she's seen a lot of people post their newsletter editions on their website or Substack, and hence why they rank well. So mentioning what you said, Carmen, that was a great test that you did. I think also just if people want to do tests, I would encourage them to do so, because you saw immediately the impact of that. Simon said, but the email marketing is a secret sauce, a fantastic way to reach an audience, and it's great and brilliant for brand building. It helps with advocacy, which in turn helps with SEO. Sorry, technically, if you save the email newsletters as the web pages, then all sorts of possibilities would come from that. So we also have John saying that it's a new RSS. It's critical that any site thinks about multiple ways to get traffic. So what I was mentioning earlier, search traffic can and does change over time. So make sure you have enough other things as well, other channels to help to stabilize. So yeah, loads of chats here. Thanks, everyone.
I want to whoever said the thing about Substack. I think it's a great idea, actually. It never occurred to me to put the newsletters both in that platform in order to rank. Very good idea, whoever said it.
I think Preeti was you, right? I think you mentioned that. Yeah, Preeti. And Neil's saying the beauty of email is that when it lands in the inbox, it has to be actioned. This is very true, because especially people that are like, I don't like having an email box that is all full and unread. But of course, email that have to go into your inbox, sometimes it ends up going into promotion. And he said that, as you mentioned, Preeti, adding the newsletter to your site always is a way to repurpose the content, saving having to write it twice. And also, as they were saying, it increased brand visibility. So loads of comments on this one. Thanks, whoever sent this one in. And we've done 3 questions in 45 minutes.
I know we usually get through way more than this. I just want to add on the email and SEO question that if you have a huge database, then actually it's a really good way to get content, SEO content. So for instance, you can do things like surveys, polls, you can ask questions, all of that stuff to collect data that you can then use to inspire your content and your digital PR campaigns. The other thing is it's a really good way of getting user-generated content as well. So travel clients that I work with using email marketing to reach out and find out about how their holidays went and send us your pictures and all of that stuff. So although that's not direct with SEO, it can inspire content that you can then put on your site. And yeah, I agree with Preeti. With a tool like ConvertKit as well, you can effectively publish all of your newsletters on a subdomain of your site, and effectively you've got a site there that's filled with sort of fresh content on a regular basis that's relevant to your industry. From that perspective, it helps directly with SEO, because you'll start ranking for those terms if your newsletter's good and it's not particularly time bound. Next question. Great. Okay, I've got so many. But I might have to start writing personally to people because we don't get through enough. Okay, we'll go with this one. This feels like a much quicker one. On YouTube, does it help if you put your keywords in the name of your YouTube videos?
Yes.
Yordan?
Yes, completely agree. I think it's useful, and especially when you do it in the right way, where it makes sense with your brand as well. and just make sure that you avoid spam or having too many like keywords in there as well, so that you could target the right audience. For example, if you're a restaurant, put the fact that you're a restaurant because your brand might not be strong to begin with, and get that content which aligns with your audience.
And in fact, just on that point of not putting too many keywords, obviously, one of the things that YouTube released a couple of years ago was clickbait, a policy against clickbait. Make sure that your title is obviously clear. It does have the main keyword, but it's also engaging with the audience, so you can actually get to rank, and avoids too many keywords to spam people, and avoids clickbait, because otherwise you're going to lose all your visibility. So I'm not going to go too deep into this one, so we can go to another question.
Great, Joe. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Yordan, go for it.
I was just going to say, according to Google, YouTube is the second biggest search engine, so optimize for it as well.
Let's go to what Preeti just mentioned. She said, sometimes, from what she's learned, the thumbnail and the title is more important than the video itself, and I find it interesting and weird at the same time. I would say, actually, Mike, we could actually analyze some of the videos from the show, because you changed the thumbnail from the beginning, and I think we had 3 different versions. So it'd be interesting just to see how this happened, because a lot of the views that we've got, both the natural, there's only a very small amount of paid search spent for promoting the videos, and I think it'd be interesting just for us to analyze. But I found that it's title and also having great thumbnails as well. John said, make some clickbaity thumbnails. I like clickbaity thumbnails, yeah. And yeah, that's it, I think, from this one.
Maybe that's what I need to do with the next office hours. The thumbnail needs to be Yordan reveals this.
We could test it. We've got our Christmas jumper special coming up December 20th. Maybe we make a nice Christmas one. With our little hats and everything.
The ultimate death of SEO, your guide to the 10 top guides for the death.
To be honest, the office hours is probably not a good example, because we just have the same title each week with the date, and so it's just SEO office hours. In terms of should you add your keywords, I think I'm going to chuck in, and it depends there, because I think on what you're referring to as your keywords. If you're talking about the actual topic of the video, then yes, and you want what people are searching for. If you're referring to your commercial terms for your business appearing in every single video, I would suggest that's like a no, unless it's relevant. So just want to clarify that if you sell, I don't know, paintball activities, and you've got a video about how to get dressed for a wedding, I wouldn't bother putting paintball in there. Terrible example, by the way. Okay. Any next question?
Next question, yes, number 5. We've got 11 minutes left.
Okay, I'm going to go with this one, just because we're coming to the end of the year. So I think this is a good one. How do you approach setting SEO goals when it feels like we're just guessing at numbers? After all, we can't control Google. The original version of this actually said, when it feels like you're just picking numbers out of the air, but I rewrote it. How do you not just pick numbers out of the air?
So in my opinion, it's about what your customer or the brand that you're working for, so the business, are actual KPIs are, and then aligning your kind of goals with that, because you seeing 25% increase like year on year, etc., might not translate into revenue. So you need to align with them. And then also, I think if you're trying to compare data, look at what the growth or decline was in a specific period. I tend to report mainly year on year, sometimes month on month, to be able to really give my clients a realistic perspective of where they are at. And then on the base of that, I would also look at the last, say, calendar year and say, this is the results you had in 2023 versus 2024. I'm expecting that in order for us to continue like growing, we need to at least hit this growth figure, and then look at specific metrics. But again, it's about those key KPIs which they want to target and what actually matters to your stakeholders.
Amazing. Carmen, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, actually, I was thinking of during the whole my career, I have gone through a lot of moments where working with big companies, they will always ask me to put forecast and to put price to SEO, right? So to put how much money I'm going to make from this page, how much money I'm going to make from that. And there was a period of time where forecasting SEO actually was way easier than it is now. Forecasting SEO has always been a little bit like finger in the air, a little bit. but it was way easier just because the SERPs were less convoluted. There were less updates, the SERPs changed less. Nowadays, the SERPs constantly change. There are constantly manual actions. I remember back in the day, what I used to do is I used to do the clusters of the keywords that I was meant to go after. From there, I could do the hypothesis that my head terms will increase a certain amount of rankings, and from there I will use a top level conversion, click-through rate and conversion rates that I used to have. I even put a template back in the day to do this forecasting, which I really used to enjoy it a lot. The problem was when MAM appeared, the Google updates, and it turned out that every single user started having a unique SERP based on the search that they used to do, based on specific data from their Gmail. So that made forecasting SEO impossible. When the SERP change for every individual, you cannot foresee what your ranking is going to be. So since then, what I've done, I have changed my KPIs. I never use rankings anymore. I use rankings as an indicative to know where roughly I am, and I look into Google Search Console, obviously, to see an average of my pages and my keywords. But what I look into nowadays is more click-through rate, conversion rates, bounce rate. Simon said bounce rate. Bounce rate is really important for me because I have different KPIs depending on the stage of the user. If what I want is visibility, I look into average rankings. If what I want is to look into improving CTR or conversion rate, I look more into CRO. So it's becoming more and more complex to put targets and KPIs for SEO. Obviously, increasing this visibility, increasing conversion rate by a percentage that you think is possible based on the resources that you have is what I will do. And reducing bounce rate, as Simon said, bounce rate it doesn't exist anymore in GA4. Now it's engagement rates, but it's one of those metrics that SEOs don't use as much as they could, because actually, if you focus on conversions, that is one of those metrics that is going to make the difference. But just I agree with Yordan. All of these metrics, you always need to tie them to whatever the business overall objectives and KPIs are, and that's how you try to make an impact. But I think it's becoming more and more difficult to do any forecasting for SEO.
Wow, we've got some great. Sorry.
I just wanted to add to Carmen's point. I think when Carmen was referring to like positions in SERP, now it's going to be even harder with AI overviews. I saw that there was like a case study released, I think it was like this week, from D at Wix, and he talked about how 43% of all the results which are appearing in AI overview within a month, they were no longer there. So you need to be mindful of the fact that you can't even like project what SERP is going to look like at the moment, because the SERP real estate is actively changing. Google and other search engines are like trying to work out how to best approach AI overviews and like results like that and integrate them into the search engine. Therefore, you can't really give figures like, okay, we think we need to increase our positions across the board by 10%. No, even clusters is quite difficult, because the way that the SERP has changed is so difficult to predict. So focus on what you can control and what the business actually wants you to achieve: footfall, sales, etc. Thank you.
Oh, thank you both. You've added a lot to that. I just wanted to share the article that I just put in the chat. It was from Will Reynolds about why 2020's SEO KPIs won't work in 2024 because of the whole AI. So it makes it very difficult, to predict. What I would say, again, is just around the context. I think we mentioned that before. So the market has changed a lot. So therefore, it's very difficult to be able to predict that what's going to happen. But you can look at your past. What was the conversions? I wouldn't necessarily look in this case, oh, we've got this much traffic, so we're going to see this much more going forward, but look at your conversion rate. And we may see, of course, with the onset of AI in certain results, search results like the UK, US, yes, you may get less traffic, but it's really about the conversion. And again, going back to what we said before, think about how we can actually diversify the traffic even more. Think about the email marketing and the social media, and put that in your strategy for 2025. So going back to the question, approach setting SEO goals, it's about setting the overall goals for the marketing, and SEO is one part of it, but make sure it's all integrated SEO can't be expected to like only think about SEO numbers. Think about overall SEO with PPC, the integrated search campaign. How can you make the most of your paid search media? We've got loads of things in the chat here, and I know we're running out of time. I just wanted to say from Simon, he said, tie in your goals with the business KPIs. It means a bit of work around and how to track those conversions, but it's really important that you're not siloed with SEO. Preacher said I talked with a lot of SaaS companies, they invest in content and they never measure SEO metrics. They measure the business metrics. So think about that. And I'll pass back to Mike because we've got 2 minutes left.
Yeah, just quickly on this question, I always say that I agree with the person writing the question. You can't control Google. What you can do is control your inputs, and so you can control how you're going to spend your time over the next 6 months or the next year. I tend to review things in quarters and then over 6 months and over a year. And like Joe said, you can also look at the past. So I tend to, if I'm about to hopefully work with a client again, I'll always ask them if they're in a better position now than they were, as in the business, not rankings. Are you in a better position now than you were this time 6 months ago, this time a year ago, however long the contract is? And hopefully it's a yes. And that sort of gives you an idea of, this is what we did over these 6 months. This is the impact that had. And this is what I think we can do over the next 6 months. It's how I tend to do things. Like, there are great things like click-through rate studies and stuff on things like advanced web ranking that you can try and give a rough idea, but there is an element of guessing, and things change all the time, and trends change, and competition changes. So like I said, I tend to focus on the inputs. Carmen, you very politely were doing this with your hand again. Go for it.
I'm just aware that we have 1 minute, but I just wanted to give the example of this client that I've been working on for the last year, 2 years actually, and they are e-commerce. And yeah, we have increased their rankings. We have brought a lot of traffic, but actually year on year, they are doing the less revenue. So in the last meeting that we were having, we were talking about how successful the SEO strategy had been, but how unsuccessful it had been, because we had no focus on other things and other metrics that could help them improve the revenue. So it's just to give you a view of how, yes, we can get really siloed into looking into SEO KPIs and not looking at other things like what can we do to increase revenue, and maybe use our focus to do that. So I just want to put the example there so we focus on the right things at the same time that we focus on SEO KPIs.
Amazing. Right, final question, which we have no time for. So if you could say it as quickly as possible, what are you most excited about from an SEO perspective? Yordan, what are you most excited about?
I just think basically that summary of what we discussed today is the focus on brand and building that user-generated content and having the chance to really get to talk directly to your customers in one form or another and targeting them through that. So brand focus through all the social media, email, exactly the full marketing mix. Carmen?
For me, it's actually the fact that Google is going to start having more competition, right? We can see, obviously, search ChatGPT going, like more users going there, Perplexity, Claude. All these things are still really small compared to Google. We know that, but that means that they're starting to have more competition, and users are starting to look into other platforms and diversify the way that they search. And that is really thrilling for me, because it means that we're going to stop focusing on keywords or keywords for Google and actually start looking at things more like marketers, which is the beautiful thing of SEO. So that's the most exciting part for me.
Joe, what are you most excited about from an SEO perspective?
I'm always excited about events. So we have the Search London event on Monday. We've got the Check SEO Crawl SEO workshop with OnCrawl, and then we have our last Search London event of the year. Carmen is coming to the Tech SEO workshop and the evening event. If anybody else is in London, let me know. So I like events because we learn and support each other there.
Amazing. Sorry that I've not been very good at timekeeping today. Thank you so much to everybody who has joined us live. Thank you so much to Yordan and Carmen for being our special guests. Thank you so much to Joe for co-hosting. Thank you to those who submitted questions. Feel free to continue submitting. And thank you to those watching afterwards on YouTube. I hope everybody has a lovely weekend.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Great show. 50 episodes today.
Hey, amazing. Bye, everybody.
Bye.